Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. My name is Kayla and I have an 8-year-old son named Shane with autism. Here I share everything I know about autism so that I can help out some of the families affected by it. In today's video, I have 5 tips. These are tips that I have used in the past and will continue to use in the future that really help my son with his development, his behavioral issues, but also help me to stay sane on this crazy journey called autism. One of the number one things I always tell people who are new parents of autistic children is to educate yourself as much as possible. Read as many reputable books as you can, ask for suggestions from your child's healthcare professionals, interact with other parents who are more experienced and have been working with their child longer than you have, join a support group, join different online forums, educate yourself in many different ways about autism. This will definitely help you to interact with your child better and to understand why they are doing the things they do. Everybody on the spectrum is different. So obviously everything you read online is not going to apply to your child and not everything online is going to be relevant. However, I felt for myself that once I started to really understand autism and how it was affecting other people and around the world, I understood my son a little bit better, which allowed me to interact with him better, which allowed me to educate him more easily and really helped with some of his behavioral issues. It also helped to keep me sane because I felt like I was connecting with my son better and I was helping him to move forward, which is one of the things I found really frustrating in the beginning of our journey is because I wanted him to move forward and I just couldn't get through to him. Educating myself and talking to other parents really helped me to do that. Structure, structure, structure. Many autistic children, especially young ones under the age of 5, really look for structure and routine. It makes them happy, it makes them feel safe. Being able to predict something that they don't necessarily always understand makes them more available to communicate and learn and develop. So ensure that your child has a structure to their daily routine. Obviously, it's going to get broken sometime, but generally make sure they have a lot of structure and predictability in their life. You're doing this at home by creating schedules for them and allowing them to understand what is coming up next and when things are finishing, certain activities, but make sure that the school is doing that too. Because I had that problem. I was doing this at home and I realized Shane's daycare wasn't doing it, and it was like a lot of issues at daycare and some issues at home. Once me and the daycare connected and we were both doing the same thing all the time, Shane really started to develop and to move forward. So provide structure and predictability. It will make them feel safe and allow them to develop faster. Monitor your child's screen time. I know, and I have been guilty of this in the past and even in the recent past. The iPad for Shane is his vice. He will take it and go into his room and just disappear. And our children often are not always incredibly social, although Shane is very social, but not when he has his iPad. He just goes into his zone. And I find that many children on the spectrum and parents that have children on the spectrum or just special needs in general, the iPad becomes almost like the babysitter, the best friend, the social interaction, the everything. Whether it's an iPad or a computer or the TV, whatever it is for you, you have to monitor your child's screen time. It's hard for them to learn and develop and to understand social cues when they are like this in front of a screen all the time. I know it's not easy. You need your time. You need to be able to do dishes and to get out and to do what you need to do in life, and the iPad helps it. I'm not saying the iPad is bad by any stretch, but try to make it part of this regular, familiar routine that they have at certain points in the day, and that it goes away sometimes. It's not always given to them, especially when they're upset or frustrated. Try not to give your child their iPad at that point because they may get upset and frustrated later because they know that when they do, they get their iPad. It is an upward battle for all parents really, but especially parents of children on the spectrum. Try to make sure you're managing how much screen time they get and also obviously paying really close attention to what they're learning and what they're watching while they're looking at their screen time. Because, for example, my son Shane used to be obsessed with this show named Five Nights at Freddy. A lot of my friends' kids were into it, but what I realized is the way Shane was perceiving Five Nights at Freddy was different than my friends' kids. Shane is a very literal person and he learns a lot through what he watches, and Five Nights at Freddy is violent at times, and I don't think that Shane has the ability to differentiate between pretend and reality as easy as most 9-year-olds. So I had to actually remove Five Nights at Freddy and roadblocks off his iPad. It was not easy. There was a lot of tears, a lot of frustration on both ends, but my point is our children learn differently and visual mediums really suck them in. So be careful what your child is watching and for how long and at what points in the day. Find ways to connect with your child. I know it's not easy. In the early stages of Shane's development, I found it incredibly frustrating to be able to connect with him, and not just to get him to develop more, but also just to connect with him on a mother-son basis. I wanted him to understand that I liked the things that he liked and that we could play and interact together, but he was so rigid. He just wanted to line up his toys or do his puzzle, the same puzzle over and over again, and I found it impossible. What I realized is that I had to connect with him based on what he was interested in and what he wanted to do. For example, Shane would have a really hard time when people would talk to him at like 3.5, 4, and they'd say, "Hey Shane, how are you?" He would just look at them. "How old are you, Shane?" Look at them. It was really bad. So I wanted him to understand the gist of a conversation, what a back and forth conversation would look like, or at least in, hello, how are you? And I would take 2 dinosaurs. He was obsessed with dinosaurs, and I would make them have these funny little conversations. "Hey, how are you?" I would animate my voice and just get him into it, and he loved it. It was the same with when he was learning about math. I would take 2 cars, because he liked cars at the time, and I would do 1 car plus 1 car, and I would have an equal sign, and then equals 2. That's how I got him to sort of understand the idea that this is math, and 1 plus 1 equals 2. Before that, using a piece of paper and writing stuff down, it just didn't work for him. I lost his interest. He'd get frustrated, throw a temper tantrum. It was useless. So find what your child is interested in and use that to communicate with them through play and also academics or just development, whatever it is. Maybe it's speech you want to work on. Maybe it's gross motor skills. Find what they're interested in and implement that into the learning. Lastly, and most importantly, pace yourself. Autism is not a sprint, it is a long journey, and you and your child are going to be on it for a very, very long time. Celebrate the small things along the way. Don't forget to never compare your child to anybody else. Enjoy your child for who they are and where they are on their journey at that very moment. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. I post videos every single week, so if you're interested, hit the subscribe button to find out what I'll post next.